The project is called experienceART to emphasize the interactive and sensory aspects of the experience. This project explores the theory and practice behind the use of interactive technology and the application of experience design practice in designing a visitor-focused, memorable, and meaningful art-themed experience. The motivation for the project comes from my interest in art, specifically the aspects of how people experience art. The project is driven by the desire to design more inclusive and alternative ways for people to experience art. Now I'm going to discuss few most relevant points from the literature. Designing experiences have guided me through the whole process of designing this experience. One of the main points in the book is the importance of considering the experience design as a broader term, where the focus is on designing a user journey that extends beyond the moment of interaction with technology. The finding that helped me with this project was the suggestion that setting out goals to achieve through the designed experience has to start with exploring and considering what are the needs and wants of the prospective visitors, and only then to try and align them with the goals and desired outcomes of the experience. The Museum Experience Revisited described an emerging trend in exhibition design where the focus is shifting from planning the exhibition based on objects to imperceptible storytelling. The use of narratives has been described as an effective tool that bridges the gap between concrete things and abstract concepts. There is also a growing emphasis on the shift from visitors as passive spectators to visitors as active participants, designers, and co-creators. This would need to allow for a shared authority of the story-making between the designer of the experience and the visitor. Human-computer interactions in museums describes a move away from the focus on technological solutions for sharing information to a practice where technology is used as an integral part of the storytelling. And to do it well, it is important to consider the flow of the user journey through the experience and include areas with diverse range of required emotional and physical input from the visitor. The aim here is to avoid information overload, minimize physical fatigue, and create a more balanced overall experience. The physical context of the media also impacts engagement and participation levels. Considerations such as the number of participants, their surrounding space, the length of the media or interaction all need to be evaluated and tested. Further, the social aspect is one of the strongest factors that lead to satisfactory experiences as well as better learning outcomes. Therefore, the design interactions have to scale to facilitate individual and group experiences equally well. The inspiration for this project comes from my experiences with art, visiting museums, and interactive experiences. The first group is the projection-based experiences. What they all have in common is that these are primarily audio-visual experiences. There can be some interactivity between the projections and the audience. The two examples here are the Atelier des Lumières and the Team Lab. The second group are immersive art installations. They will generally be more conceptual, and the installations usually take advantage of the sense of space and scale, and are oftentimes interactive. The two examples here are the immersive art experience of Meow Wolf and Infinity Rooms of the artist Yayoi Kusama. And the third group are interactive exhibitions in museums. From my research, the Artlands Gallery and the Bordeaux Wine Museum stand out because they have managed to really well incorporate the digital aspects with physical objects and have designed innovative interactions that go beyond just screens, vision, and audio. This project's methodology involves blending my thoughts and interpretations when selecting subject matter with user-centered design methods. To better understand the experience design practice, video invitation to an open-ended interview was emailed to artistic directors. However, no interviews were possible, but relevant previous interview material and links to TED Talks and videos were forwarded. All the information received has informed design decisions and improved my understanding of the practice. To establish design requirements and to empathize with the user, an open-ended question asking to describe a memorable or meaningful interactive experience was sent out to 70 people. The results showed that spatial and immersive experiences that triggered strong emotional response create the most memorable effect on people. Further, people seem to respond to interactive experiences, especially where the causal link between the person's actions and the interactive's reaction is immediate and easy to understand. These insights were used to guide the initial design requirements. Based on the responses received to the low-fidelity prototype questionnaire, the primary target audience for the project are people who are looking for entertaining and educational experiences, technology-friendly and open to innovation. Knowledge about art is expected to be at the beginner's level. I used the Experience Designer's Toolkit to guide the design process of the project. In this image, you can see the final structure of the experience before creating the low-fidelity prototype. This was used as a guideline throughout the design process. At the stage of low-fidelity prototyping, sketches were used to explore ideas and concepts and work out initial technical requirements. Here is a sketch of the Colors and Scents interactive. This interactive explores the meaning of colors in painting and the relationship between colors and scents. The Artist's Cabinet is an interactive that explores pigments and paints. The goal here is to invite the visitor to explore the space and interact with the objects by touch. Innovation and Art Interactive is themed around innovative ideas and inventions that had a significant impact on the Impressionist art movement. To be able to test the concept with prospective visitors with the COVID-19 restrictions, a cardboard model was created and a short video was filmed. While researching the topic of Impressionist color palette, I concluded that the color wheel is not the best representation. This led to changing the color wheel to an artist's color palette. The prototype consists of a cardboard cutout of the artist's palette, 6 capacitive sensors, Adafruit MPR 121 capacitive sensor breakout board, and an Arduino Uno. The capacitive sensor worked well even through the applied paint. Next, the story of red color in paintings and Impressionist art was researched and written, audio was recorded, and video was made in Premiere Pro. For the aroma panel, 30 essential oils were selected. Some of the aromas worked better than others, and some had to be replaced. 12 final aromas were selected for testing. Glass bottles were color-coded to gently direct the visitor to the most relevant aromas, but not physically limiting the choices. The Innovation and Art turned out to be the most technically challenging interactive. The concept had the visitor exploring different objects in the drawer of the easel, and the interaction with the object would trigger the projection of the relevant story. I researched sensors that could do some type of object recognition. I ended up using the Nano 33 BLE Sense to capture the data from each differently colored ID cards. I was able to adapt the code to select the index number of the item that has the highest percentage value. This is then communicated with processing, and processing then plays video. The video content for the interactive was made using Premiere Pro. To allow a greater number of people to access the interaction without interfering with each other, the artist's cupboard was separated into locker-type units. The visitor starts with a tactile exploration of the object in the pocket, then proceeds to find the right RFID key to unlock the door of the cabinet. I did consider making the RFID lock myself, but it would cost me more to build it than to buy the ready-made one, and it would not be as easy to place in the box. The medium fidelity prototypes were tested with 3 users. For the Colors and Scents interactive, the users felt that the size of the palette was not dominant enough. Also, the users tried to press the screen of the TV, thinking that it is a touch screen, and the video was too long. A larger painter's palette was chosen to make the object more obvious. The video was shortened to accommodate more interactions with the painter's palette, and another video was made to increase the interaction possibilities. The processing code had to be adapted to include functionality to switch between the multiple videos. The Innovation and Art Interactive received very positive feedback due to projection quality and the fact that the story is projected on canvas. The content was said to be interesting and easy to understand. However, issues with the placement of the projector were noted. The redesign process included creating a more sturdy scanning compartment. A small hole was drilled in the bottom of the drawer to allow USB connection between the laptop and the Nano microcontroller. One section in the drawer was covered with a piece of plywood, and a small cutout was made to be used as the insert for the ID cards. The feedback from user testing of the artist's cabinet included points on the need to make the hole stand out more. An interesting observation was the fact that all 3 participants demonstrated mixed feelings between fear and excitement before putting their hand inside the hole. As part of the redesign process, the first challenge was to source an artist's cabinet. This was a much more challenging task than it should have been. The hole for the tactile interaction was fitted with bright red foam board, and a little hook was attached to the side of the box to hold all the different key cards. For the interior of the box, I used paper cutouts that can be folded into 3D objects, and a small LED light was fitted on the ceiling to make the scene feel more lively and lifelike. I also had to think about the experience as a whole and the space in which the interactions take place. The concept of the space is that it is an artist's studio and the visitor would be able to explore and interact with everything inside the room. For the high-fidelity prototype, I tried to bring the space as close as possible to that level of an immersive environment. To emphasize the artistic mood of the room, I created a wall papered with sketches and drawings of Impressionist artists. And to minimize the distraction of the rest of the room, I added red curtain as the divider. The high-fidelity prototype was tested with 4 people who had no prior knowledge about the project. The 4 people were 2 couples that came in at 2 separate time slots. This made the testing even more interesting as I had to make up a way for the 2 people to enjoy the experience together. The colors and scents turned out to be the most liked interactive. The engagement with the interactive was remarkable. Participants spent between 15 to 20 minutes at the interactive. The story and the visuals of the videos were well perceived. Even though the story is delivered on headphones, the couples did engage in a discussion while watching the videos, making the interaction more social. The most liked part of the interactive was the exploration of scents. Participants enjoyed and engaged in sampling different aromas and discussing memories, possible sources, and the best fitting aroma. The participants said that they enjoyed this interactive the most because it resulted in an emotional response and engaged more than just their vision, and it requires an active response from the participants as it goes beyond just delivering information. When participants worked out the scanning of the ID cards for the Innovation and Art Interactive, they were really surprised when the video started to play. They felt puzzled and impressed by the way that the interactive works. Both couples said that the content was really interesting and engaging, and it was great because it clearly explained the concepts and it was not too long. For the artist's cabinet, the red foam board worked well to attract the participants' attention. All 4 of them put their hands straight in there. When the couples approached the box for the first time, they took turns in exploring the object inside and discussing what it could be, but didn't do anything else. When approaching the box for the second time, couple B did figure out that the cards were keys and managed to open the box. All participants voiced surprise and excitement when they got the box to open. They stayed engaged with the scene in the box, and after listening to the story, they discussed observations on how it relates to their own lives. The participants enjoyed the tactile exploration of the object and the ambiguity of the interaction. It seems that regardless of the briefing and encouragement of active exploration, the testing environment being my home had quite a significant impact on the participants' behavior. For the first 20 minutes, they were all restrained and timid in their approach to engaging with the interactives. During the second approach, they were visibly more comfortable and curious to touch and try things out. The technology behind interactives seemed to be invisible to the eye of the visitor, to the extent that they were really surprised when they did find out what can be done with the objects. The testing did, however, demonstrate the still existing challenge of balancing the ambiguity of interactions with more visible leads and pointers. However, when participants were asked if they would like more obvious instructions, they all disagreed. One of the couples said that it took them a while to get into the mindset of touching and exploring things, but as soon as they figured out one of the interactions, they were hooked to try and figure out the others. And when they managed to do so, they felt a sense of accomplishment. I believe that with few small improvements in lighting and signage, the experience could be made more balanced. Regardless of some of the failures in getting the participants to figure out the interactions on their own, I was thrilled to see the joy and engagement of participants. They also noted the intimate feel of the space and said that they felt much more comfortable than in an art museum, and that the usual sense of rushing to the next object was absent, which led to a much more relaxed and fulfilling experience. Both couples left the space smiling and happy with the experience, wishing to see it happen in a real-life setting.